Good morning, it's Sunday and I have my first online class tomorrow morning, Monday at 11 a.m. and I hope to see you all there. So in preparation for that, I'm gonna go over just some real basic cat and cow, working more with pelvic stability and mobility. So really learning how to rotate your pelvis from a place of integrity and not just shifting weight and bones around, but actually moving your pelvis with abdominal articulation. So here we go through some basic cat and cow. I'm gonna show you some do's and don'ts, so you have something to kind of gauge and an observation to look at. So here we go. So coming down onto your mat, make sure your hands are right underneath of your shoulder, your wrists, and your knees are right in line with your hips. A lot of times we can be out here like this. That's not going to be helpful. So making sure you're stacked in that tabletop position. A lot of times here we find ourselves hanging our heads. So make sure that your head is picked up in line with your spine. Your head weighs more than you think, so just ensuring that you're not letting all that dead weight just hang from a very fragile part of your vertebrae. Also, it's easy to kind of let your belly dump. So we don't want to let our bellies dump. Think about pulling the belly button up, and maybe just do that a couple of times. Let the belly sag to the floor, and then think about just pulling your belly button up towards your spine. And just notice what that does automatically for your pelvis. So this is kind of like sexy kitty right here, moving into a more emotionally balanced cat, maybe. Because then the other one's like angry cat. So making sure your hands are firmly pressing down into the mat. And I also like to cue pressing down to the tops of the feet and the shins. That'll give you more support through here, the upper hamstrings. So feeling that connection, pressing through the hands, making sure the head's not hanging off the spine, pressing through the tops of the feet, keeping the belly button pulled up and in. Oppositional energy is a really key principle in Pilates. So think about reaching through the crown of the head and reaching the tailbone in the opposite direction. You're thinking about tractioning your spine in two directions. Take a big inhale here. Working on that three-dimensional breath. Exhale. Feel the knit of the ribs. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the knit of the ribs. Good. So from here, we're going to start going into our, what I call sexy kitty and angry cat. So we're going to go into sexy kitty first. From the tailbone, start to articulate the spine, coming into our sexy kitty. The head's the last thing to lift. Don't let the belly drop. Then from the tailbone, start to initiate, tucking the pelvis towards you, wrapping the sits bones into the backs of the legs. And then again, the head's the last thing to go. Like your tailbone and head are trying to meet each other. From the tailbone, from the belly, think about stretching the tailbone away, using your belly, articulating each vertebrae, I just got an adjustment, allowing the chest to move forward into our sexy kitty. Back to angry cat. From the abdominals, wrapping, pulling the belly in, scooping the belly button, scooping to articulate into our sexy kitty. Good. Reaching. This should feel like a lot of abdominal work and articulation, because going through cat and cow, I'll show you, it's easy to do this, right? There wasn't a lot of articulation through my abdominals or spinal articulation. And Pilates, believe it or not, is more about spinal flexibility than it is about getting strong abs. That's by default what happens when you really start to move your spine from an honest, integritous place. You, by default, get a toned belly because you're working on drawing up and in to support all the articulations, extension, lateral flexion, front flexion, you know, all of those things comes from a strong, integritous core. So practice a few of those.